Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. It's time for your daily dose of some fragrance content, and today I'll be talking about the brand of Maison Alhambra. Now over the past year and a half or so I've accumulated quite a huge number of Maison Alhambra fragrances, and they actually have a pretty large portfolio. But for today I've prepared a list of 12 scents from the brand of Maison Alhambra that in my opinion are some of their very best. So let's go. The first fragrance that I'm going to show you in today's video, my first suggestion for one of the very best Maison Alhambra fragrances that you can currently get, is called Salvo Intense, and this fragrance is a clone of Dior Sauvage EDP. And actually it's done quite nicely, and it's also at the same time pretty inexpensive. It has a bit of a trashy atomizer, but other than that the quality here is quite good. You're getting some of that signature scent profile of the original Dior Sauvage, but again this one is cloning the EDP version, so the spiciness here is slightly toned down. You get a little bit more sweetness on the dry down, but again done very nicely and pretty similar to the original fragrance. Quality is good, performance is good, the price is pretty low, and all around, if you're looking for a good and inexpensive clone of Dior Sauvage EDP, then definitely check out Salvo Intense. Let's move on to my next suggestion in today's video, which is called Victorioso Victory, and I think nowadays this is called Victorioso Nero, and this one is cloning Paco Rabanne's Invictus Victory, and in my opinion, this is one of their best offerings that you can currently get, especially when it comes to how close they are to the original fragrance. Victorioso Victory gets surprisingly close to the original scent, almost identical. The quality is very good, the price is pretty low, and this thing carries a very low price tag, which is probably the best thing out of all. It's a very versatile masculine fragrance that can be worn pretty much all year round, and again I think Victorioso Victory is actually one of the best Maison Alhambra fragrances that you can currently get. My next suggestion is one of those very hyped up fragrances from Maison Alhambra, which probably were responsible for the popularity of the brand itself nowadays, and it's called the Tux. And this one received quite a huge amount of hype, I think it was early last year. This one is a clone of YSL Tuxedo, and to this day it's actually one of the better Tuxedo clones that you can get. You get that very interesting, very masculine, slightly old school feeling mixture of a lot of spices, strong patchouli note, you get quite a bit of vanillic sweetness, you get some rose in here. All around, again, a very masculine, slightly old school feeling, slightly barbershoppy type of scent. Performance is good, projection is good. Again, to this day, this remains one of the closest clones of Tuxedo that I've tried. The only problem with this one is that sometimes can be hard to find and prices can reach outrageous levels, but apart from that, again, this is one of the best Maison Alhambra fragrances currently that you can get. My next suggestion is a clone of Memo's African Leather, and it's called Afro Leather. And this is again one of the better Maison Alhambra fragrances. It's not for everybody, definitely, especially if you're not into very spicy scents, because this opens up quite spicy with a very strong cumin note. There's a hint of freshness, the leather is somewhere in the background, and then on the dry down this becomes this really nice leathery ambery mix of a fragrance, which is very warm and has quite a nice scent. But again, the opening can be a bit challenging, for me included, because I think this has even a stronger cumin note compared to the original fragrance. Other than that, after the first few minutes and the strength, after the cumin note loses its strength, this actually becomes very similar to the original scent. My next suggestion is a part of the Glacier line of fragrances from Maison Alhambra, and of course those are clones of Jean Paul Gaultier scents. And the one that I'm going to show you is called Ultra, and as you can probably guess, this one is a clone of Ultra Mall, and it's done very well, and I really love the original fragrance, and Ultra Mall actually smells very similar to Glacier Ultra actually smells very similar to Ultra Mall from Jean Paul Gaultier. It carries that very signature mix of a very sweet pure note with lots of vanilla and a nice amount of minty freshness. It smells very sexy, it's a compliment getter, and I really like the scent profile in general. very similar to the original fragrance, lacks a bit of the quality and the sparkle of the pear note in the opening, but other than that, very similar to Ultra Mole, and it's one of the better Ultra Mole clones that you can currently get. Performance is good, projection is good, and the price again is low, pretty low, like most any other Maison Alhambra fragrance. The next one is one of those fragrances from Maison Alhambra that I really like a lot, one of my most favorite Maison Alhambra scents, and it's called Crafted Oud, part of the Zafiro collection, and this one is a clone of Tamin's Carved Oud. Can also serve as an alternative to Wood Oud from Tom Ford, very similar to that fragrance as well. It's a very masculine, very dark scent that has a strong agar oud note, like the name would suggest. You also get, you know, a bit of leather in here. You get a bit of ambery sweetness. There's maybe something like an ashy tobacco note, a hint of freshness in the opening, but it's actually a very masculine fragrance that I absolutely love. Performance is good, projection not super loud of a fragrance, you have to keep that in mind, but the total longevity on skin is actually pretty decent. The packaging is nice, the quality of the scent is nice. All around, again, this is one of my most favorite Maison Alhambra fragrances. My next suggestion is for those of you who like a strong tobacco note and who like a strong honey note. And it's called Tabac, and this fragrance is a clone of Tabacular from the Dior Private line. And again, another fragrance that's very similar to the original fragrance. Now, in the opening, not super close to the original, it just lacks the quality as you can expect. But on the dry down, this actually gets quite close to the original scent. It's a very strong, very potent fragrance. And again, you really need to like that mix of honey and tobacco, because this is very strong on the mix. It has some fruits in here that add a bit of sweetness. That's where it's lacking compared to the original fragrance, in the quality and the strength of the sweeter notes, the sweet, fruity notes. But the other combination of honey, amber, and tobacco on the dry down is actually pretty close to the original fragrance. Very strong scent that lasts for a very long time, projects quite hard, and it's a great, unisex choice for the colder months of the year. So again, if you like that combination of honey and tobacco, definitely check out Tabac from Maison Alhambra. Next, let's move on to some Parfum de Marly clones, and the first such clone is called Hercules, and this one is a clone of Parfum de Marly's Herod, and it's another one of those very good scents, another tobacco-based fragrance, just like the original fragrance, sweet tobacco-based one, but this is a lot less challenging compared to Tabac that I just showed you. This is not as strong, not as potent, but it's a lot easier to wear. And in here, it's all about the mix of vanilla and tobacco, like the original fragrance. There may be some spices, some oud somewhere in the background, but again, all about the mix of tobacco and vanilla. And actually, it's done quite nicely. It has good performance, it has pretty surprisingly good quality considering how cheap of a fragrance this is. Total longevity is good, the projection is not very strong, but the original fragrance is also not known for being that very hard projecting scent. Another surprisingly good Parfum de Marly's clone from the brand of Maison Alhambra is called Casas, and this one is cloning Carlisle, which is an absolutely fantastic scent. The original is one of my most favorite PDM scents. And Casas actually is very decent, again, considering how cheap of a fragrance this one is, and that is just only cost a fraction of the price of the original scent. It's this very interesting mix of some ouds, some fruity sweetness, vanillic sweetness, some tobacco, some booziness. You know, the original is an absolutely great fragrance. I really like it a lot. And Casas, especially on the dry down, gets surprisingly close to the original. The opening is a bit off, feels synthetic compared to the original, slightly harsh, as you can probably expect at this price point. Although with time and maceration, I've had this for quite a while now. You know, that opening has actually softened up quite a bit, and now it's more pleasant compared to when I first got it. It has great performance, great projection, and again, just costs a fraction of the price of the original scent. And let's keep the tobacco theme going with another fragrance that has a strong tobacco note. This one is called Exclusive Tabac, and this is a clone of Carolina Herrera's Mystery Tobacco, and it's one of those very best fragrances from Maison Alhambra, in my opinion. I really like the original fragrance, and I like all the good clones of mystery tobacco. It's a fragrance that's strongly based on the tobacco note. You get some sweetness in here, quite a bit of sweetness, and this is a very easy to wear tobacco fragrance. Quality is pretty good, performance is good, projection is good, all around. Again, one of my most favorite Maison Alhambra fragrances and one of their very best offerings. My next suggestion is again part of the exclusive line, and it's called Exclusive Saffron, and this is yet another Carolina Herrera private line clone. The original is called Saffron Lazuli, and unfortunately I've not tried the original, so I cannot compare it to the original, but this is a very interesting, quite an interesting fragrance, let's call it that. It's perfectly unisex, and it's a very interesting mix of a strong saffron note like the name would suggest, but you also get quite a bit of rose in here. You get something like an agar oud note, you get a bit of vanillic sweetness, there's some fruity sweetness, a blackcurrant note, there's a bit of powderness, there's maybe a hint of tonka bean, a hint of iris, and also quite a strong leather note. Again, perfectly unisex fragrance with very interesting niche scent profile. Performance is very nice, projection is very nice, it's pretty inexpensive, and all around this has been a very interesting scent from the brand of Maison Alhambra. And my last suggestion in today's video comes from the Jean Lowe line, and it's called Jean Lowe Ombre. Nowadays I think it's called Jean Lowe Noir, and this one is a clone of Louis Vuitton's Ombre Nomad, and again one of the better Ombre Nomad clones that you can get. This, like the original fragrance, relies heavily on the notes of agar oud, leather, rose, ambery sweetness, a bit of raspberry, sweetness, fruitiness, and maybe a hint of smokiness as well. Very interesting scent profile. That's supposedly a unisex scent, but to my nose leans heavily to the masculine side. It has a very Middle Eastern edge, the whole scent itself. The quality is very respectable, the performance is great, the projection is great, the price a little bit higher than your usual Maison Alhambra scents, but again this still costs a fraction of the price of the original, and it comes really nicely and interestingly packaged, and again it's one of my most favorite Maison Alhambra fragrances. So my last suggestion in today's video, Jean Lowe Ombre. And so guys, in today's video I showed you what in my opinion are 12 of the very best Maison Alhambra fragrances that you can currently get. I hope that you found this video interesting or useful. If you did, give it a like. And I also hope that you're going to join me tomorrow for your daily dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.